What's up, y'all? It's the Relentless Love Podcast, where we're stirring up passion and purpose for marriage.
That's right. We're diving into topics you always wanted to talk about. Real life, real struggles, real love, and real results. So what are we waiting for? Let's go in. What up? What up? Welcome back to the Relentless Love Podcast, man. Thank y'all for tapping back in with us, man. We appreciate y'all, man. It's your boy, Brock Jones, and my wife, Dominique Jones, man, back once again, man, to tap in with y'all, man. Y'all hit the like button, subscribe, man. Make sure y'all are tuned in to us each and every week as we bring y'all real talk conversations coming from us live and direct.
Yes, yesterday we celebrated Juneteenth, so happy Juneteenth. If you didn't celebrate, hopefully after this episode, you understand the importance of celebrating, so it's not too late. But confession, so I'm a Louisiana girl, and I just remember when I moved to Texas, like, Juneteenth was a big thing, and I had honestly never heard of it. Like, we, learned about Black history and all of that, but we just didn't celebrate Juneteenth in Louisiana. It's a totally different world, different culture.
We turn up on Juneteenth, man. Yes. Barbecue and kicking it, dominoes, spades, the whole nine, just kind of kicking back and chilling with the fam.
But share with the audience just a little bit of the history. What is Juneteenth and why is it such a big
just
deal?
Briefly, man. It's just when Texans, the slaves that were here, got word that the Emancipation Proclamation had cleared, man. That was 1865, if I'm not mistaken, man. And a little late to the party, right? I say that lightly, but on a serious note, they didn't know that they were freed from slavery, and that was the day that they got the notice. And shoot, it was a party. You know what I mean? It was time to turn up, man, and celebrate. And so that's the big significance of Juneteenth and why we celebrate that and why it's actually a big deal. Recently got, I think, officially established as a national holiday. So
that's huge. So turn up. That's a big reason. So today we actually want to dive into that. I think it's a topic within marriage that's not talked about a whole lot. Just the impact of, I call it husbanding while Black. It's a real thing, and the dynamics that men of color bring into a marriage, and just an awareness that I hope men, but also women, that we can have a heart of empathy and compassion for our husbands or our future spouses.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the impact of slavery in general, man, just really tore family units apart anyway, right? And so, you think about the dynamics of, maybe a husband and a wife getting torn apart, not because of infidelity or because of something a moral failure, but because you actually sold into slavery, right? You actually, really, stripped away from your family and kids, and then, your identity stripped away and all that. So you think about history and your ancestry lineage just being broken consistently for years, 400, 500 years. There's going to be some identity crisis there. There's going to be some confusion there. There's going to be some dysfunction there, and trying to redeem and restore that on a journey of trying to self-discover and figure out who we are as men,
right,
and leading a family and kind of trying to build a family unit. There's going to be some heartache and some brokenness there. And we see that historically in Black families, man. Fatherlessness, dysfunction in the family, single parent homes, all of that. It's because there's a fight to redeem and find identity again through this systemic oppression, And it's not as direct now as it was back then, but we still have to walk through a lot of things that really attack who we are and make it hard to be successful. Not just in family, but in just business and employment and just life in general. And so there's a lot that Black men have to walk through daily to you just maintain that dignity.
Let's focus on slavery for a bit, because there's so much there. And honestly, we will likely continue this conversation and bring in some experts, but we just wanted to start the dialogue. So if y'all have stories, if you have family history or even interracial couples, we want to be able to talk about that, because it's real dynamics that we have to navigate in marriage. But from the standpoint of slavery, even couples who maybe were born into it and they tried to have a family, I can't even imagine just the fear, right? The risk of you trying to have that, because kids were taken at different points, not even just the selling part, but like being born into it,
Right.
you spent most of your day, like one in the house, maybe one in the field. Like it's so hard to build that intimacy and connection.
Right.
Even just communication, like it was so restricted and controlled. So just the freedom to build, and just have freedom to do things in general.
Right.
We take that for granted, but the residual effects generationally, we see it like in discipline. I remember growing up just in our family culture, because we grew up in the South, just this mindset that children, what is it? Children should be seen and not heard. And I think it stems from just that slaves trying to control their kids so it wouldn't create, extra
would create an issue where they would get, whipped or beat up, or, your children taken out and hung or sold or separated. So you had to comply, or reap the repercussions from it. And even a sense of just maintaining your respect as a man, because at any time, the master could come take your wife and just rape her.
Exactly.
When at his will,
And
if you had a master like that,
Yeah.
and that was a reality of, well, I gotta be docile,
Right.
enough to make sure that family's safe, so then your dignity and respect as a man, and at that time, was stripped.
Right.
And then those who was like, man, forget that, I'm just finna wild out, like I ain't taking it, I'm rebelling, like, okay, well, cool. What's the end game for that is, all right, now you're dead.
Right.
Now you're hung or you killed, and now your family's without you. And so that was a lot to wrestle with back then at that time, and children that were raised up in, like, we not that far removed from that time. Like my grandfather, was Jim Crow, in the Jim Crow era, right? A lot of people think like, oh, that was so far long ago, we're so past that. Like, no, my granddaddy, you know what I'm saying, was in the mix with that. And his dad was probably a slave, and like, my last name really probably is not Jones.
Right.
And that's just historically looking back, I'm a Jones, but that's not really my true lineage. That was given.
Yeah.
I think it's Welsh, you know what I mean, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're not that far removed of trying to regain, that dignity and respect from a lot of the things that was passed down. And we look at our fathers, and then we got to kind of salute them for holding it down as best as they could, coming out a lot of a lot of those things that they had to walk through. And it's hard, maintaining that and really like living up to your full potential when you've been stripped like that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially to be dehumanized to the point that you're seen and treated literally in law as property, but then you don't have the right to own property, and just generationally trying to overcome those barriers. Yeah,
it was a third. I think then they did what's it called when they count population?
Census.
The census, counted as like a third.
Right.
It wasn't even a whole human being. It was like a third of a human being. Like I actually saw that looking up my ancestry, and I was looking at the census, and they was tallying it up, and I was like, that's crazy to see.
So imagine just the long-term effects on identity and the psyche.
Right.
And you, not just for yourself, but you're trying to raise another human being with that mindset, with that limited mindset.
Yeah. And so, you can see, fast forward, and you can see how that dysfunction and that those issues creep into modern day times. And imagine all the media, all the coverage, all the things that are put on display for us as Black Americans, that show the opposite of a wholesome family. It shows the opposite of what, like a good, firm, foundational family where the husband is in there and he's faithful, and the woman is carrying her dignity and respect and living like that. Like, everything we see is really like contrary to that.
Right.
So fighting through all of the historical, dysfunction, and then everything that we're fed shows that we're supposed to live dysfunctionally. It makes it hard for a man to want to like slide into being like a really good, respectful, dignified man.
Right.
That's valuable and using integrity in his family and living up to the standards and potential he's supposed to be in the home, when he's fed a whole bunch of
and even for those who try, like, the dysfunction is so deep seated that counseling is not a thing, right? It's the value of it is not there. It's stigmatized, and you just don't know about it. And so then you're self-medicating. So then you have alcoholism, drug abuse. You have Papa was a Rolling Stone. Like these are the concepts that we associate with a lot of Black husbands.
Right.
And it's accepted, I think, but then that just that separation within the home, even if you had a father, he wasn't present, or maybe he was working hard. I thought about the Jeffersons when you said that. Like that was, one of the few positive images we had.
Right.
But the dynamics, right? You're surly and frustrated because you're working probably 10 times harder than your white counterpart, just to barely get up one rung in the ladder, but you're still beaten down.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just all of those. I just encourage women to just consider that if you're married to a man of color, just all of these weights that your husband is constantly carrying, and just the importance. And I admit I struggle with this. How much recognizing the importance of me over communicating affirmation to you and respect to you to make you feel valued, because out in the world, you are probably the least valued person.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of systemic oppression, a lot of things that have been culturally norms that we have to show up in rooms that the majority of the room doesn't look like us,
Right.
doesn't talk like us, doesn't act like us. I mean, from everything from our hair to the way we look to being to being deemed as intimidating or aggressive just because of how we look or how we, like, all of the things that we have to almost tone down just for the sake or not be ourselves for the sake of trying to get ahead. And then you end up code switching and all the things that all the switches we have to sometimes flip just for the sake of, man, I got to do this for the sake of making sure that I can provide for my family.
Right.
And then you end up feeling like you're not being genuinely yourself. You're not being Black. You're not, all the things, right? And then, like you said, the whole money thing, and making not feeling like you are earning or getting the opportunities you need just because of how you look and the color of your skin and all that. It's a lot to navigate, but I know for myself and a lot of other strong Black men and strong Black fathers and husbands, it's not impossible. And it ain't all gloom and doom. It's just something I think we've learned how to deal with, and we persevere and push through, and we do what we need to do, and we hold tight to, our identity and who we are and what we represent, and we get it done. And we maintain our respect and our dignity, and we don't let those things prevent us from being the men we know we're supposed to be. And it's good to get pats on the back and affirmation. Sometimes we don't talk about it a lot, but on a day-to-day basis, you'll be surprised how many things we have to be aware of and be on a swivel for.
Well, just in the last, I want you to share, I remember hearing you just in passing on the phone with two different men, or you met with one mentor. One conversation was about a man considering him needing to cut his locks off. And then the other conversation was a mentor just encouraging you not to code switch when you show up in the room. So share.
Yeah. So a close friend of mine was applying for a job at a school that he's very qualified for. And one of the stipulations they said was, in order for us to give you this job, there's a certain way we do things around here, and we want to maintain that. And so, if you want this job, you're going to have to cut your locks off.
Yeah. Even though I think recently there was a law change, right, about that.
Well, there's been a back and forth about it. But, I mean, just the simple fact, in my mind, that's blaring saying we don't like those kind of people here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But this is a man that got kids. He got a family, kids. He need to pay bills. He need to feed his family. Now he can't show up himself. Because who he is offensive to their school system or their culture. And so now he got to make a decision. Am I going to be myself? Or do I need to cut myself off in order to fit into this? And
what else do you have to do in this culture?
Right. Yeah. You can't show up and be you. You gotta be somebody else. And that's the situation he's put into. And now he gotta make a decision. Is that salary worth? And any man that's gonna take care of his family gonna be like, I gotta sacrifice myself for that. should it be that way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think so. I don't agree with that. But, our counterparts, and our counterparts don't have to navigate that.
Right.
Because their hair don't look like that. You know what I mean? Or their skin color looks a different way. And so those are just dynamics that play. Very influential friend of mine that I recently got a chance to connect with, had a meeting with him. And one of the advice he told me, he was like, Brock, man, you are in rooms and positions with people, man, and you have a lot of influence. And you're gonna be around a lot of big players, right? He said, don't code switch unless necessary, because people will identify that and call it out and know that you are being something that you're not supposed to be, and there's no respect in that. He said, only do it when necessary, because your counterparts are going to recognize when you as a black man are trying to fit in.
Right.
And they're not going to put any respect or dignity on that, because they know that this is the culture and the nation that we're in. They can recognize it just as much as we can recognize when you're doing that. And a lot of times they strip respect and dignity from that, because they know you just acting like them in order to get a favor or get a leg up. That, as a man, that could kill your respect, because you're having to kind of ha, shuck and jive just to try to get favor, instead of being able to just show up genuinely yourself as a man and be respected, other than given equal opportunity, equal playing field. But you're showing up less resourced.
Right.
You're showing up with less influence. The starting line is here from certain people, and your starting line is back here.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of running from behind, trying to get there, and you feel like, I got to do more so I can get on equal playing field. And that's a battle of the mind of the man.
Right.
And think about, trying to build a career from that, and then you come home to your family.
Right.
And you still struggling, and then y'all got issues.
Exactly.
It could just play out in the marriage as I'm going to come home and my frustrations are going to blow up, because now my wife ain't even respecting me, or my kids acting up. And then I ain't getting respect out here in the career field, or I feel like I'm just having to do things to get by. That's going to be, a recipe for,
Yeah, and a black man is not conditioned to express emotion and vulnerability, because you're on guard, on high alert all the time. And so it's so important in the home, when you're married to a man of color, to create that safe space for him to show up authentically. He may need support and help in communicating, even connecting with his emotions, and just asking questions. Not taking the frustration not personalizing it, because you have no idea what he's gone through, and maybe he doesn't want to put that weight on you. So I think that's important. Yeah,
and I mean, just because of the time that we in Juneteenth right now, I think it's important to talk about this, because a lot of us don't talk about it, and it's become so natural, like breathing. Like, you know what I mean? That we just navigate it because it's been the norm for so long. Like, I mean, even now I have, I won't say anxiety, but I have thoughts of like, are people gonna book me or not book me based on when they get on the phone with me or a video call with me, they see, oh, he's black. You know what I'm saying? Oh, he's black. I wanted another person. Like those are things that pop up that we may not come sit down and talk about it with our wife and be like, man, I had anxiety that I wasn't gonna get the contract. I wasn't gonna get the booking because I'm black. And maybe they prefer, like, those are things that we carry as black men around, and we don't really come home and talk about that kind of stuff, or we don't go to lunch and talk about it. We kind of internalize it. And it does affect us, over time, because this is the world and systems that we live in, and it does come out in our families. It's gonna affect somebody or something at some point, and it's the reality of our world. It's not impossible to navigate, but I think we do need to talk a little more about it and express our feelings about the things we have to deal with on a day-to-day. Not to like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not to make excuses for anything, but it's just to clear our hearts and our minds to be like, man, this is a real thing. This gets on my nerves. This is, I don't like having to do this, or I don't want to do this, but I know that I can overcome it but I'm not going to internalize it. So here's a
Yeah.
safe space for me to just be like, man, I'm tired of this. I don't know why I'm feeling like that.
Because if not, it becomes this belief that you subscribe to that's affecting how you show up, you know, in the relationship, in your career. And you just have to work harder at overcoming that.
Right. But it also gives you, as my wife, like when I share certain things like that, it gives you better understanding of some of the stresses. I mean, even you gotta walk through the same stuff probably double time. I got some info earlier, where female came from. Now I'm like, do I want to say female?
Right. Yeah.
You're a woman and you're a black woman.
Yeah.
So you get the double dose of what we have to walk through. But
we do, but I think, you know, when it comes to marriage, you know, and we've talked about, you know, role swaps and, you know, God's order for marriage, it's significant that the husband be strong in his identity to lead a family. And so that's why we're really highlighting that. We talked a lot about women and the plight of women.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to take this month to kind of spotlight more on the men. And, you know, it's just hard to lead a family in a way that you've never seen. You have no frame of reference. You don't know what it means. You know, like you said, there's no heritage to draw from. There's no inheritance to pull from. And you're trying to figure it out, like for yourself, for this family, for the future. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. And there's tons of great men and families out there. There's it's just a miracle and testament to the power of God and the redeeming power of God that he never took his hands off his people.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what we had to walk through, he walked right there with us and revealed himself to us and through us through all the 400 plus years of the slavery and all that. I mean, read your Bible. You'll see it historically there. Same God then, same God now, that he's with us through this now. But like, there are some good families out there that have passed down a great history of this is who we are, this is how we do it. But in the context of that, that's rare.
Right.
When you look at the context of like the total population of who we are, if you probably put a percentage on it, I'm pretty sure it'll be at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
How many good ancestry lineage-filled families that have really held it down versus those that have been stripped,
they are the
broken, fatherlessness, abandonment, just toxic family that because of a direct correlation to the systemic oppression and ripping out and the tearing away of resources and family that happened that destroyed black families through the years, man. It's a real fight. And we see it evident in everything that we see going on in the world. From, in school systems, gun violence, addiction, abortion, you name it, you run the gamut, right? And it stems from, are the black men healthy?
Right.
Are the black men in position?
They're missing,
are the family unit, is the family unit good or is it broken? And 9 times out of 10, it's probably gonna be, man, where's the daddy at?
Right.
Where's the dad at, man? Is he good? Is he healthy? Is he raising his kids? Is he right? Like, where is he?
Yeah, I was surprised at the stat I saw this morning. Only 29% of African Americans are married.
Right.
So we are the least ethnic group to value and appreciate marriage. And, even you mentioned the dynamic for black women. I think it's just a strain on black women, strain on black men. It's like, man, I could do bad by myself because there's so much baggage that you bring.
And they get married later. So the percentage of that in the age range is people really aren't even considering getting married or getting married to 35, 40 when 1920, 1930, people was getting 17, 18, starting a family, building a family.
You want to get yourself together, but then it's harder to merge.
Now it's like, baby mama's single, wilding out, kids everywhere, all of that, right? And then as a man, you show up and want the respect aspect, kind of like what we're talking about. It's like,
I've been doing this on my own. I don't need you.
Right? And then you got all of that going on. It's like, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on,
But there is hope, I think about just even like we made a conscious decision to homeschool our son. I feel like it's what God called us to. But when I looked at this documentary, I think it was called, was it Indoctrination? I think that was the name of it. And just the school system really is not wired for boys in general. Like it's really not. It's more favorable for girls. And so that was part of the reason. And it's so cool because our son like was studying American history this year, and he was just reflecting, just hearing his thoughts and insight on what he learned about, slavery and Jim Crow, all of that stuff was interesting, but important, right? For us to be proactive in empowering our son to know his history, know where he came from, but also say, hey, that doesn't define who you are. Right. We get to change the narrative.
Right.
So Brock, what would you say to men, women, in general, like how can we change the narrative in spite of all the odds stacked against us?
Yeah. I would say, like kind of what you said, no true history. Not fabricated history, right. Not whitewashed history, not any of that. Like study for yourself to know the truth. Try to figure out where you came from, and then self-discover and know yourself, who you are, what you represent, what your identity is, what your purpose is, what your gifts and talents, and then begin to ascribe value to yourself, importance to yourself, and importance in how God views you as a human being, as a man, or as a woman. But, particularly talking about the men, like put your feet down on the ground and stand up and put your chest out and say, all right, I'm a king.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have value, I have worth, and I can show up in any space, be myself, and walk in my purpose, my calling, my dignity, my integrity, all of that, right? And I don't have to shape, shift, and change to get ahead. And I think that would then attract affirmation. Yeah. That would attract respect. It will attract the things that are supposed to be a part of your life. I think any woman of value and that knows herself and knows a good man when he see it will be attracted to that, and then want to naturally ascribe respect to that. Right. Or at least learn how to, right? Like even if they struggle with it, like learn how, man, that's a good man. That's a powerful man. Right. That's a king right there. Like I want to be a part of that, right? Mm-hmm. So I would just say do that. That has strengthened me over time, the things I had to face and walk through from where I come from, born and raised, to even things I have to navigate now. The more I begin to have confidence in myself and learn about myself and begin to accept me for who I was, the more I could show up in rooms and not feel like I needed to conform. Right. The more I could show up and not feel like I needed to do the dance to get X, Y, and Z. But I can just show up genuinely myself, confident in myself, knowing that God made me and God placed me here. Yeah. And I'm going to be exactly who I need to be. That's why I made songs like Freedom. Yeah. Go listen to my song. Go listen to my music, man. That song Freedom came from that. Like, I'm free to be me. I'm free to be who God made me. Like, man, And I think that would be the most important thing I would say for men. And you are worth respect. Yeah. You are worth everything that belongs to you, man. Yeah. And women are a beautiful prize. And when you stepping, you're a big stepper, stepping how you need to, the women will want to ascribe worth it. We want you to lead. As you were sharing, I thought about one thing Savion said that stood out. He was looking at the economy and, slavery and cotton and all that. He was like, man, Black people built this nation. Facts. And to hear him articulate that, I get teary-eyed thinking about it. And it wasn't from a negative. He was proud, we can do great things. This economy was built on our backs. Right. So though it's a negative connotation, it shows our power and our strength and our resilience and the value we bring any place that we go. Right. And if we tap into that, and then change the narrative and make it positive, we can build things for ourselves. We can build a business. We can build a strong family. We can build a beautiful legacy. It's proven. It's proven. Study of history. All you got to do is look at history, real history. Yeah. And you'll see that Black people was getting busy. Yeah. Even in the midst of the oppression and the obstacles, we was getting busy, man. And that's our true history.
Yeah, and not
And
just
like-
the names we hear about on Black History, but like
Right, yeah. The
digging.
standard names we hear. All right, cool. We get it. But there's more. Like, go digging. There's
Black
more.
excellence and brilliance that
Facts.
is mind blowing. So
Facts.
husbands, Black husbands, husbands of color, we need you. We love you.
Yeah.
We honor you.
Yeah.
And the world will be better as you continue to rise up in your manhood and your husbandhood. We need you to lead. It's going to change all of the things we see that are broken in the world. It's because we need you to be in your place and contend for your marriage, contend for your family, and everything really will get better.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. And for the good ones out there, the solid ones, man, reach one, teach one, man. Reach back and grab somebody, pour into them, build them up, man, because we're going to change the game one person, one life at a time, man.
That's right.
One marriage at a time, too. That's what it's all about, man. Much love from us to y'all. This is the Relentless Love Podcast signing off. Happy Juneteenth. Turn up, baby. Let's go.